So things have been pretty bad lately, right? Like, we've got a global pandemic that's not near over yet, no matter what people tell you. You got people being brutalized by the police for protesting police brutality. And we've got a really scary presidential election coming up that I feel like not just my country, but the entire world is pretty terrified of. So it's understandable that people would have something to say right now. And in all of this chaos, I gotta ask, why in Haruhi's name would the thing that you have to say be, I better go onto Twitter and tell the world how much I hate trans people? We're talking about J.K. Rowling. Crap damn. J.K. Rowling is taking a break from what she's been normally doing for the last while, which is retconning insane bullcrap into her books that she supposedly finished, and instead has just decided to go full on TERF. For those of you who don't know, TERF is a nice little acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. It is a brand of feminism that does not include trans women or non-binary people or really any trans people. Now, this isn't like a new thing for J.K. Rowling. Like, she's liked tweets by TERFs before. She's come out defending some pretty TERFy people, and in the past, either her or her publicist would be like, oh, this is a misunderstanding, or she accidentally liked that tweet, don't worry about it. But then this last week, on June 10th of 2020, Rowling posted something on her personal blog that just made her full mask off TERF. Like, she's not even trying to not tip her hand anymore. For anyone who didn't see this little essay titled TERF Wars, ooh, she's so clever. The sprawling paragraphs go through all sorts of various rambling things justifying Rowling's insane distrust of all trans people, including but not limited to defending a bigot by making up a bunch of lies that JK just pulled out of her butt, bringing up her own actual and extremely tragic assault at the hands of a cis man in order to justify why we should police where trans people poop, and going off to say she can't be a trans exclusionary feminist, she likes trans men, and trans men were just women. Hey, Joe, way to invalidate not just trans women, but also trans men and really all trans people in one go. You're just winning it today. Perhaps most egregiously, Rowling tried to lump internet trans activists in with Donald Trump supporters, which is an especially tone-deaf take since 2 days later, on June 12th, the 4th anniversary of the Pulse nightclub massacre, the Trump administration rolled back protections for trans people in medicine, meaning that doctors can just refuse to treat people just because they're trans. I'm living in hell! There's so much more to cover than I'm really able to invest either the time or the emotions into right now. But if you want more information, I highly recommend looking at Sarah Zed's most recent video. It's really comprehensive and gives more information than I would have been able to provide in the first place. I highly recommend it. But during these times, I think it's safe to say that I'm not going to be supporting Rowling or the Potter franchise at all anymore. It's just not right. She's too much of an out-and-out bigot for me to support her work. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that. Unfortunately, though, I'm part of a generation that grew up with Harry Potter, and it means a lot to myself and tons of other people. Heck, I was about the right age for when the first two books came out, that I was around the same age as Harry, Ron, and Hermione. So, like, I felt like I was growing up with these kids, as did a lot of people. This was a huge chunk of my childhood, so saying goodbye to Potter is rough. And I understand that it can't just be rough for me. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time to recommend some things that might fill that void pretty nicely. The first one that I wanted to recommend is another British fantasy book series. This one a bit sprawling, lots of stories, little dry humor, and it takes place on a flat Earth. The Discworld! A flat planet on the back of 4 elephants on the back of a large turtle floating through space. The Discworld stories are really wonderful, but the best Potter adjacent that I'd like to recommend is the Tiffany Aching series. Tiffany is this smart-witted little girl from a country town who, after getting in some trouble involving some Lilliputian Highlanders called the Nack-McFeagle, Tiffany decides that she's going to become a proper witch. And what's interesting about Tiffany is that she's not like a messiah or a chosen one. She doesn't have like some innate super magical ability. In fact, most of the witches that she talks to tell her that the best things that she can do are when she doesn't actually use magic. So instead, Tiffany's just kind of going through life being the best person she can be. The aforementioned Knack McFeagle are fantastic. I adore them so much, and they're some of the best supporting characters I've ever read in a novel. They're consistently funny, insightful, and just really brilliant. Also, any discussion of Tiffany Aching would be incomplete if it didn't include mention of Granny Weatherwax, one of the best characters in all of the Discworld. Granny Weatherwax is a different kind of witch. She's very down to earth. Down to disc? That'd be down to disc? How does this work? Down to earth or disc? I'm gonna go with disc. Granny Weatherwax is basically the mentor figure throughout a lot of Tiffany's stories and in a lot of other Discworld books, and she's really one of the best characters, period. Now, the Tiffany Aching stories are only 5 books in the Discworld world, which is a bit of a bummer, and the last Tiffany Aching book is the last Discworld book of them all, since the late great Terry Pratchett actually died shortly before it was published. But if you fall in love with the disc, I've got good news for you. There might be only 5 Tiffany Aching books, but there are 41 total Discworld books. Go crazy. While not all of them are great, most of them are really good fun. It's some biting satire, it's some smart writing, and I swear there have been times I've gotten in trouble in public places because I'm reading the books and they always make me laugh out loud. I cannot recommend Discworld enough, but for a Potter adjacent, definitely Tiffany Aching. Now, that's all well and good, but I think I can hear something some of you might also be saying. Hey, Nick? Wasn't this like an anime channel at one point? You gonna you ever gonna talk about anime again, or is that still a thing? I'm glad you asked, because there is in fact a somewhat Potter-derived anime that I've been wanting to recommend on the channel for a while. Studio Trigger's Little Witch Academia is a delightful series. Everything about it is beautiful, be it the music, the animation, or just the character writing. The only reason it's not my favorite thing that Studio Trigger made is because of a certain gay Ultraman spin-off that I just can't put down. Little Witch Academia follows a little Japanese girl named Ako, who travels to Great Britain to go to Luna Nova Academy for Witches. She wants to go there to follow in the footsteps of her idol, Shiny Chariot, a famous performing witch. Through Luna Nova, Akko makes a lot of friends, consistently challenges the status quo, and starts uncovering an ancient mystery, despite the fact that she's not especially focused and she's very not good at any magic. One of the great things about Little Witch Academia is that its themes kind of run the gamut from really simple ones for kids about how to make friends to some more complex ones about challenging unjust power structures. I also have to say that I love all the characters. Well, not all of them are perfect. Most of them are really well rounded, and all of them have fantastic character designs. This show is so expressive and sincere. The other thing that I adore is that even with all of the main cast being young women, most of the imagery, plot progression, and even the second opening is borrowing heavily from shonen anime, as in anime geared at young boys. So there's a really nice twist in what you might expect from that genre. Best of all, though, is our main character, Akko. Akko is absolutely a delight and a treasure. She's energetic and passionate and doesn't want to give up on her dreams, but she's also impatient and selfish in a way that you normally see in teenagers. She's still a delight, though, and probably one of my favorite characters of all time. One of my favorite experiences with this series, by far, was a few years back. My friend Hannah and I were watching the pilot movie for Little Witch Academia together. And there's a scene where Akko finds this magical artifact, and she's so excited. And she's just shoving it in her friends' faces and talking about how wonderful it is. And as Akko was having this delightful joy spasm, Hannah hit the pause button and started cackling. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And through her tears and laughter, she looked at me and said, "It's you. Akko is just you." Normally, because of the rule of threes, like, this would be the part where I have a third example of something like similar to Harry Potter that you could replace it with, but I decided that for this final bit, I wanted something a little bit more powerful to close out the video with. During these times where someone that you looked up to, especially during your formative years, ends up being a bad person, it's easy to fall back on common cliches. The one that comes to mind in this case is never meet your heroes. And I mean, that is really easy, right? It's just this thing of like, oh, well, they're just bound to disappoint you. Well, your favorite mangaka turns out to be a pedophile. Hey, that voice actor you really liked, turns out he was a prolific sex pest. Hey, the creator of the Harry Potter universe, she's a total TERF. And, well, yeah, it's a simple explanation, and yeah, it's a way to avoid the pain that comes from all of those. It's also worth noting that it might mean missing out on good things, too. Because, yeah, some people absolutely suck, and I would never justify how much those people suck and how awful it is that they use their platforms to be awful to people. But sometimes your heroes don't let you down. Sometimes, even when you're in a small town and you're not sure what your family will think, and you're literally afraid for your life because your workplace has not been accepting of people like you meet really great people like Amanda Wynn Lee, the original actress who played Rei Ayanami in Evangelion, and you're comfortable coming out to her before you come out to your own parents. I think some of you understand what I'm getting at right now, but in the event that you don't, I'm going to make it a little bit more clear. Just a second. Hi, everybody. It's me. I've been non-binary for a long time now. And sometimes I have very masculine days, and sometimes I have very feminine days. I do answer to Celeste, if you're curious. I guess what I'm trying to say is, despite everything, happy Pride.